Every 3 minutes in America, someone is diagnosed with age-related macular degeneration, the leading cause of blindness in seniors. Every 3 minutes in America. But what if I told you one nutrient, backed by decades of research, could protect your eyes and even slow the disease once it starts? And here's the kicker. Most doctors don't mention it during your checkups. Today, we uncover the science and the source that could save your sight. You know, that hits me on a very personal level. Just last year, a close friend of mine said she couldn't read the labels on her prescription bottles anymore. The letters look blurred, almost like they were swimming on the page. And when she finally went to her eye doctor, she heard those 3 words nobody wants to hear: macular degeneration, progressing.
Susan, that story is unfortunately far too common. Age-related macular degeneration, or AMD as we call it, is the #1 cause of vision loss in seniors. And it doesn't start with total blindness. It starts exactly as you described: trouble reading, difficulty recognizing faces, or needing brighter light just to do normal tasks.
That sounds like half the seniors I know, and most of them just chalk it up to normal aging.
And that's the myth, Susan. AMD isn't just normal aging. It's a disease process where the macula, the tiny central part of your retina responsible for sharp vision, begins to deteriorate. Think of the macular as the camera's focus lens. Without it, you can't read, you can't drive, and you struggle to see the faces of the people you love.
That almost makes me emotional. The idea that you could lose the ability to recognize your own grandchild's smile.
Exactly. And here's where the story takes a hopeful turn. Over the past 2 decades, research has proven that specific nutrients, especially lutein and zeaxanthin, act like internal sunglasses for the eyes. They absorb harmful blue light, reduce oxidative stress, and protect those delicate retinal cells.
So it's not just about wearing sunglasses outdoors, it's about building protection from the inside out.
That's right. A groundbreaking trial funded by the National Eye Institute, known as the AREDS2 study, followed thousands of seniors. It showed that those who supplemented with lutein and zeaxanthin had a 25% reduced risk of their macular degeneration progressing to advanced stages. That's huge.
25%? That's the kind of number we usually hear with major medications.
Exactly. And yet these are nutrients found in foods, primarily leafy greens like spinach and kale, and in egg yolks. But here's the catch. The average senior in America gets nowhere near the recommended amount. In fact, a 2021 CDC dietary survey found that fewer than 10% of older adults consume enough lutein daily.
So most people are walking around with a nutrient gap, not realizing it could be putting their vision at risk.
Yes, and it's not just diet. There's another factor at play. As we age, our bodies absorb less of these carotenoids.
So most people are walking around with a nutrient gap, not realizing it could be putting their vision at risk.
Yes, and it's not just diet. So even if you're eating some greens, you may not be getting enough into your bloodstream and, more importantly, into your retina.
Which explains why people like my friend who swore she ate healthy still ended up with AMD.
Exactly. It's not about blame. It's about awareness. And here's the part I find frustrating. Many routine eye exams don't include a conversation about nutrition. Seniors walk out with a new prescription for glasses, but no discussion about the fuel their eyes desperately need.
You're making me think of all those times the doctor just said, well, your vision's a little worse. Let's bump up your lenses. No one ever mentioned lutein or zeaxanthin.
That's the doctor doesn't listen dilemma we've talked about before, but it doesn't have to stay that way. In a moment, I'll share the exact wording seniors can use in their next eye exam to make sure nutrition becomes part of the conversation.
I can't wait to hear that. You know, I think what's scary for many people is that AMD sneaks up. It's not painful. It's not dramatic at first. You just start noticing small frustrations like needing brighter light to sew or read. And by the time you realize it's serious, the damage is done.
That's absolutely true. AMD is progressive. Once cells in the macular are gone, they don't regenerate, which is why prevention and slowing progression are critical. And here's the good news. The earlier you start nourishing your eyes, the more protection you give them.
So even if someone hasn't been diagnosed, it's not too late?
Never too late. In fact, a 2022 study in Nutrients Journal found that seniors who added lutein and zeaxanthin to their diet, even after early signs of AMD, showed measurable improvements in visual performance, like contrast sensitivity. That means being able to see the difference between shadows and steps, which reduces fall risk, too.
That's such an overlooked point. Protecting vision isn't just about reading books, it's about preventing accidents.
Exactly. Vision health is fall prevention, independence preservation, and quality of life.
I'm thinking about our listeners now, David. They're probably wondering what food should they reach for and how much do they need?
Great question, and I'll break that down. But before I do, let me share something surprising. A recent Harvard study found that people who had higher levels of lutein and zeaxanthin in their blood had brains that looked cognitively younger on MRI scans. Yes, these nutrients don't just protect your eyes, they may protect your brain.
Wait, so it's not just about saving vision, it's about keeping your mind sharper too?
Exactly. And in a few minutes, I'll explain why that overlap matters and how the same nutrient that saves your sight could also be shielding your memory.
Now that's a twist I wasn't expecting. David, you've just blown my mind. You're saying that the same nutrients that shield our eyes from macular degeneration may also guard our brain? That feels like a game changer.
It really is. The science is pointing to something remarkable. Lutein and zeaxanthin don't just sit in the eye. They accumulate in the brain, particularly in regions tied to memory and learning. A 2020 study in nutritional neuroscience found that seniors with higher levels of these nutrients performed better on memory and processing speed tests. So in essence, you're nourishing two of the body's most vulnerable organs at once.
So every forkful of spinach or every bite of egg yolk, it's not just about the eyes. It's about protecting who you are, your memories, your independence.
Exactly. And here's where it gets interesting. The foods richest in these nutrients aren't always the ones people expect. Everyone thinks carrots for eyes. But carrots are high in beta-carotene, which is helpful. But it's lutein and zeaxanthin that directly deposit into the macula.
So the old advice, eat your carrots for good vision, isn't the whole truth.
That's right. The real powerhouses are dark leafy greens like kale, spinach, collard greens, and even more surprising foods like corn, orange bell peppers, and egg yolks.
Egg yolks, that's good news for my breakfast table.
Yes, and they're actually a great source because the fat in the yolk improves absorption. That's a critical point. Lutein and zeaxanthin are fat-soluble, meaning your body absorbs them better when eaten with a healthy fat, like avocado, olive oil, or nuts. A study published in the Journal of Nutrition in 2019 showed that seniors who paired their greens with a little fat had nearly 3 times the absorption compared to those who ate greens alone.
So it's not just what you eat, but how you eat it.
Exactly. That's why one of my favorite practical tips is this. When you have a spinach salad, drizzle olive oil on it or add some walnuts. That simple pairing transforms how much your body can use.
That feels doable. Because I know a lot of listeners are probably thinking, I can't overhaul my whole diet, but adding olive oil to greens, that's not overwhelming.
And that's the beauty of it. Protecting your vision doesn't mean a complete lifestyle overhaul. It's small, consistent changes.
But David, I have to ask the question I know our listeners are thinking, what about supplements? Because not everyone likes kale. And let's be honest, many seniors aren't whipping up green smoothies every morning.
It's a fair question.
and supplements can play a role, especially because as we age, our gut doesn't absorb nutrients as efficiently. That's why the AREDS2 formula, the same one tested by the National Eye Institute, includes lutein, zeaxanthin, vitamin C, vitamin E, zinc, and copper. It's been shown to slow AMD progression by about 25%.
But here's the thing. How do you know if a supplement is safe? There are so many bottles on the shelf, and they all look the same.
Great question. And here's where seniors need to be cautious. Not all supplements are created equal. Look for ones that specifically say they follow the AREDS2 formula. And always check that the product is third-party tested. Otherwise, you can't be sure you're getting what the label promises.
That's me in the drugstore, staring at 20 different brands, completely lost.
You're not alone. In fact, surveys show that 70% of seniors taking eye supplements are not actually on the right formula. And here's the kicker. Some older formulations still include beta-carotene, which can actually increase lung cancer risk in former smokers. That's why AREDS2 replaced it with lutein and zeaxanthin.
So the wrong pill could do harm?
Yes, which is why being informed is critical. And here's something important for our listeners. Supplements are meant to fill the gap, not replace food. The studies show the strongest benefits come when seniors combine nutrient-rich foods with the right supplement.
So it's not either or, it's both and.
Exactly.
David, can I confess something to you? I'm one of those people who buys kale with the best of intentions, then finds it wilted in the fridge a week later.
You're not alone, Susan. That's why I often recommend starting with easier swaps. For example, swap iceberg lettuce for spinach in a sandwich, or toss corn and peppers into a soup. Tiny changes, repeated daily, add up.
That feels manageable.
But, Susan, here's something most people don't realize. Even if you eat right, even if you supplement, there's a hidden barrier. Certain medications that seniors commonly take, like statins and some blood pressure drugs, can reduce carotenoid absorption.
Oh my! So the very pills people take to protect their health could be silently robbing their eyes of protection?
Exactly. And in a few minutes, I'll tell you the simple adjustment that can help seniors on these medications still get the benefits.
It almost feels unfair. Seniors already juggle so much. Doctors, prescriptions, appointments. And now we find out their medicine cabinet might be stealing their vision too.
It can feel overwhelming, but knowledge is power. Once you know, you can make simple changes, like timing when you take your supplement or adjusting diet pairings to bypass those absorption issues.
That's encouraging. And I think it speaks to something bigger. So many seniors feel dismissed at the doctor's office. They're told, your eyesight's going, that's just how it is. But conversations like this prove it's not hopeless.
Exactly. And here's a tip for our listeners. At your next eye appointment, use this script. Doctor, I'd like to talk about nutrition and supplements for my macula health. Are you familiar with the AREDS2 recommendations? That question does two things. It puts the issue on the table, and it shows you're an informed patient.
That feels empowering.
It is, and studies show that when patients ask direct, informed questions, they receive significantly more guidance. A 2019 study in patient education and counseling found that patients who used scripts like this had better adherence to treatment plans and better outcomes months later.
David, I have to tell you, I'm already imagining the emails we're going to get after this episode. People writing in saying, that's me, I'm on statins, or I've been told I have early AMD. And I think the big question will be, how do you know if you're getting enough lutein and zeaxanthin?
That's a crucial question, and here's where it gets fascinating. There's actually a simple, non-invasive test that can measure the amount of macular pigment in your eye. It's called macular pigment optical density, or MPOD, and in a moment, I'll explain how it works
and why knowing your number could be the key to saving your sight.
Okay, now you've got me hooked.
So, Susan, here's where technology gives us hope. That test I mentioned, macular pigment optical density, or MPOD, is quick, painless, and non-invasive. You look into a special device, and within minutes, it gives you a reading of how much lutein and zeaxanthin are actually in your retina.
So, it's almost like a cholesterol test, but for your eyes.
That's a perfect analogy. Just like cholesterol numbers tell us about heart risk, MPOD tells us about macular protection. A low MPOD score means your retina's underprotected, like leaving your eyes without sunscreen. A higher score means you've built up that shield.
That feels so empowering. Instead of just waiting for bad news at the doctor's office, you can actually measure where you stand.
Exactly. And here's what's powerful. Research shows that when seniors track their MPOD levels and adjust diet or supplements, those numbers can climb within just 3 to 6 months. And as the numbers rise, the risk of AMD progression goes down.
So you can actually see your protection building almost in real time.
Yes, and that motivates people because AMD can feel invisible until it's advanced. MPOD makes the invisible visible.
David, I'm imagining someone listening right now thinking, this sounds amazing, but I've never even heard of this test. Where do I get it?
That's the tricky part. Not all clinics have the equipment yet, but many optometrists and ophthalmologists are starting to offer it. And here's what I tell my patients. Simply ask. Say, do you offer MPOD testing? If they don't, they can often refer you. And here's the kicker, some community health fairs are now offering it for free.
It's always about asking the right questions,
It
isn't
is. And once you know your baseline, you can set a plan.
Okay, David, let's get practical. Our listeners are probably sitting there wondering, what can I do tomorrow to start protecting my macula?
I'd say start with 3 daily habits. First, make sure you're getting at least 1 serving of dark leafy greens. Second, add a source of healthy fat with it, like olive oil, nuts, or eggs. And third, if you've been diagnosed with AMD or you're at high risk, talk to your doctor about the AREDS2 supplement.
That sounds doable. Not a long list of impossible rules, just a few anchors to build around.
Exactly. And the beauty is, it's cumulative. Every day you build more pigment in the macula, more protection against damage.
You know, I think of my grandmother. She lost her central vision in her 80s. I remember her holding a magnifying glass to see photos of us. Back then, no one talked about nutrition for eyes. If she had known, maybe she would have had more years of independence.
And Susan, that's the bittersweet truth. We can't rewrite the past, but we can rewrite the future for ourselves, for our loved ones. And the research gives us real tools now.
David, earlier you mentioned that certain medications can interfere with absorption. I know that's going to worry some listeners. What's the workaround?
Great point. Timing is everything. For example, if you're on statins or certain blood pressure meds, try taking your supplement at a different time of day, ideally with your largest meal. That way absorption improves. And of course, always let your doctor know. A recent 2021 study in clinical nutrition showed that simply adjusting timing boosted lutein blood levels by nearly 40% in seniors on these medications.
So it's not about giving up your meds. It's about working smarter.
Exactly.
David, can I be honest? I'm thinking about my own habits. I wear glasses, I squint more at night, and sometimes I think, well, I'm just getting older. But listening to you, I realize I have more control than I thought.
That's exactly the takeaway. Vision decline is not an automatic sentence of aging. With the right nutrients, habits, and conversations with your doctor, you can slow it, protect it, and in some cases, even improve function.
That feels like a hopeful prescription.
And it's when you can fill in the produce aisle.
That's funny. David, before we close, What would you say to the listener who's already been told they have AMD? Maybe they're scared, maybe they feel it's too late.
I would say, don't give up. Even in later stages, lutein and zeaxanthin can slow progression. They can help preserve the vision you still have. And that matters, because every day with clearer sight means more independence, more dignity, more connection with the people you love.
That's powerful.
And here's the most inspiring part. Studies show that seniors who actively engage in protecting their vision report higher quality of life, less depression, and more social activity. Protecting your eyes isn't just about sight, it's about living fully.
Friends, I hope you're hearing this as clearly as I am. Every 3 minutes, someone is diagnosed with macular degeneration. But you don't have to wait until it's too late. You can start today with food, with knowledge, with questions for your doctor. Protecting your eyes means protecting your independence, your safety, your ability to recognize the people you love. That's worth every small step.
Beautifully said, Susan.
Thank you, David, for walking us through this journey. And to our listeners, thank you for trusting us with your time and your health. Until then, take care of your eyes, take care of your health, and remember, you have more control than you think.